The ring wasn't heavy, just honest. A plain band, thin and worn, with a pearl the size of a peppercorn that shimmered faintly under fluorescent light. It sat between my sister and me on the bedside table in the hospice room, while our mother fought to swallow a breath. Mom had just drifted off, finally still after a long hour of wheezing and whispering our names. The oxygen machine gave its slow, mechanical sigh every few seconds. It was 2:17 in the morning. Marcy had her arms folded tight across her chest, legs crossed like she was trying to tuck herself away. We hadn't said much. Grief doesn't always leave room for words. But the ring, our mother's wedding ring, felt louder than either of us. "Take it," she'd said earlier, voice brittle from hours of holding herself together. "You're the oldest. Mom would want you to pass it down." She'd said it with conviction. Her eyes even got glossy, like the sentiment was just as meaningful to her. I nodded, quietly, gratefully. I didn't put it on. I just slipped it into the small linen pouch Mom had kept it in for years. Same pouch I'd seen her tuck into her sock drawer every night like it was a secret, and zipped it into the front pocket of my duffel bag. That's how I remember it. That's how it should have stayed. But grief distorts timelines. Families fracture at the fault lines of mourning. And I didn't realize until weeks later that Marcy had told a different version of that moment, one where the promise somehow reversed, where I didn't feel ready, where she offered to hold on to it for now. I still don't know if she believes that version. But I do know this. When I went to retrieve the ring, when the will was settled, the house cleaned out, and the tiny linen pouch was nowhere to be found, Marcy smiled like it was hers all along. Mom died the next morning, just before the nurse's shift change. A quiet, almost anticlimactic passing. No final words. No dramatic goodbyes. Just the last puff of air leaving her chest, and then stillness. I was sitting beside her, half asleep. My hand was still wrapped around hers. When I realized, I didn't cry right away. I just watched her face for movement. And when there was none, I squeezed once, like maybe she'd squeeze back. She didn't. Marcy had stepped out to get coffee. When she came back, cup in hand, she froze in the doorway. Her face crumpled slowly, like paper in the rain. She set the cup down and buried her head in the crook of Mom's arm. We held each other, forehead to forehead, the way we used to when we were little. It was the last time we felt like siblings. The weeks after were a haze of casseroles, sympathy cards, and logistical hell. Obituaries, death certificates, coordinating the church memorial with a priest we barely knew. Marcy took the reins on most of it. She liked to keep busy. I focused on sorting the house, mostly Mom's things. The ring never came up, again. Not until it did. I found the pouch gone 3 weeks after the funeral. I was helping clear out the old bedroom dressers. The top drawer of Mom's vanity had always been her important stuff drawer. Insurance papers, old passports, tiny notebooks full of handwriting, and of course, the ring pouch. I remember my heart thudding when I opened it and saw it wasn't there. At first, I assumed it had fallen behind something. I even moved the whole dresser, combed through drawers, checked her sewing kit, and every old handbag. Nothing. So I called Marcy. She didn't answer. It took her 3 days to text me back, and when she did, it was short. Just a bubble that read, "I have the ring. You said I could keep it." I stared at the screen for a long time. My first reaction was confusion, then disbelief, then something hot and ugly that I didn't want to name. We hadn't even argued about it. We hadn't discussed it. It was supposed to be mine, to keep safe until I passed it down one day. That was the plan. Her plan, even. So, I called her. She didn't pick up. Again. Next morning, she left me a voicemail. I didn't save it. but I remember the tone like a splinter under the skin. "Hey, sorry I missed you. I know we're both going through a lot. You didn't seem like you were in a place to deal with things that night. You said I could keep it for now, remember? I thought we were on the same page." Same page? I wanted to scream. I wanted to reply with a timeline, with the exact quote she'd used. "You're the oldest. Mom would want you to pass it down." I wanted to bring up the pouch, the bedside table, the moment she placed it between us like a peace offering. But I didn't. Instead, I left it alone. At least, for then. Thanksgiving came and went. We didn't see each other. She stayed with her husband's family upstate. I stayed home, made boxed stuffing, and cried into a beer. It was fine. Christmas was worse. We finally saw each other at a family brunch our cousin insisted on hosting. I showed up out of obligation. She showed up in that ring. She wore it on a gold chain around her neck, tucked under a turtleneck sweater, but not tucked well. The pearl peeked out when she leaned forward to pass the potatoes. I stared. My fork froze in midair. She must have seen my face because she cleared her throat and adjusted the collar like she was hiding a bruise. Later, after the meal, I caught her alone in the kitchen rinsing mugs. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just asked, "Why are you wearing it?" She didn't look up. "Because it's Mom's," she said. "And I miss her." As if I didn't. It's not about the ring. That's what people will say. That it's about grief, about control, about feeling closer to the person we lost. And maybe they're right. But the ring was a promise. A tiny, quiet contract between siblings in the presence of a dying mother, Jenna, that she made. One that mattered. And when she broke it, without even telling me, it wasn't just the ring I lost. It was trust. When I was 12 and Marcy was 10, we buried a dead bird in the backyard with a popsicle stick cross. She cried harder than I did, even though I was the one who found it. She named it Daisy. That was Marcy. Emotional, impulsive, easily swept up in symbolism. And back then, I used to protect that part of her. I didn't know that grown-up Marcy would weaponize sentimentality like it was proof of ownership. After the Christmas brunch, I went home with an acid pit in my stomach. The image of the ring dangling from her neck kept replaying, clearer than anything else from that day. I barely remembered the food, couldn't recall a single joke anyone cracked. But the pearl caught in the sunlight? That stayed, burned in, like a bruise under my ribcage. I didn't text her. I didn't call. But I did look up estate guidelines for verbal promises. Turns out, unless it's in writing or witnessed by multiple people, it's as good as dust. Mom's will was straightforward. The house had been sold and the proceeds split evenly. No debts left. A few sentimental items were itemized. Her Bible, a patchwork quilt from Grandma Ruth, some heirloom china. But the ring wasn't mentioned. She hadn't updated the will since Dad died, and back then, the ring was just assumed to go to me. Everyone in the family knew that. Hell, even Mom's sister, Aunt Jeannie, once told me, "That pearl's yours one day. You're the one who always asked about it." But I had no receipts, and Marcy knew that. I figured we'd talk it out eventually, get over the messiness and settle into something like peace. But peace has a funny way of retreating when pride gets involved. In January, I finally texted her, "Hey, can we talk about the ring? I don't want this to turn into a thing, but it is important to me." She left it on read for 2 days, then replied, "You said you didn't want it right away. I don't understand why you're making this a fight. Mom wouldn't have wanted us to argue over something like this." The way she weaponized Mom's memory in that line, I nearly crushed my phone in my hand. I typed out a dozen replies, angry ones, heartfelt ones, clinical ones with bullet points. I didn't send any of them. Then came the photo. One night in February, my cousin Jenny posted a picture on Instagram of a wine night she hosted for the girls. Marcy was front and center, holding up a glass, smile wide, and there it was again. The chain. The pearl. Except this time, it wasn't just peeking out. It was framed, like a trophy. The caption read, "Love these women. Couldn't survive grief without you. Sisterhood. Mom's ring. Our family forever." Or Mom's ring. It felt like being slapped. I clicked through the comments. People wrote things like, "So beautiful she left that to you," and "That ring is gorgeous. What a keepsake." And there it was. The lie, now public, cemented in hearts and hashtags. I confronted her the next day. I didn't want to, but my hands were shaking, and my stomach was coiled so tight I couldn't eat. So I called. This time, she picked up. "Hey," she said, cautious. "We need to clear the air," I told her. "I need you to be honest." "About what?" She played dumb. I knew that tone, calculated innocence, just enough to make me feel like I was being dramatic. "The ring," I said. "You said it was mine, in the hospice room. You told me to take it." "No," she said slowly. "I said you could have it eventually, that it should stay in the family. You handed it to me. You said Mom would want you to pass it down. Those were your words." "That's not how I remember it." Silence. Then she added, "You didn't even take it." "I did take it," I said. "I put it in the pouch. You must have taken it out when I wasn't looking." "Now you're accusing me of stealing?" "No," I said. "I'm accusing you of rewriting history." That phone call ended with her saying she didn't want to do this anymore. A week later, I got a polite email from her husband, Nate, asking me to respect Marcy's grieving process and not to escalate things unnecessarily. He wrote it like he was HR, like this was a workplace dispute. I didn't respond, but I did print the email and stick it in a folder marked Ring Dispute, just in case. March brought more silence, and then something unexpected. My Aunt Jeannie called. She'd been going through old photos for a family scrapbook and wanted to include some of Mom's jewelry pieces, especially the ring. She asked if I could send a picture. I froze. "Marcy has it," I said. "Really?" she asked, surprised. "That's strange. Your mother always said it'd go to you." "She did," I said, "and Marcy promised it would." Aunt Jeannie made a low sound in her throat. She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then she murmured, "She wore it at brunch, didn't she? I noticed it then." "Yeah." "You should get it back." "Tell her that." "I will," she said, "but it won't matter unless she wants to listen." The next time I saw Marcy was at our cousin's baby shower in April. I debated not going, but I didn't want to look petty or make a scene. So I went, kept my head down, brought a diaper genie, and tried to pretend my sister wasn't standing 5 feet away with a stolen promise around her neck. We didn't speak until the end. As people packed up and started saying goodbye, Marcy approached me by the buffet table. Her voice was low. "I wish you'd drop this. It's not something you get to wish away, Mars. You think Mom would want us fighting over jewelry?" "It's not jewelry," I said. "It's what you said. About it. That's what matters. You're making me into the villain. You did that all by yourself." Her face tightened. She walked away before I could say more. After that, I did something I'd been avoiding. I dug through Mom's old emails. I'd saved everything from the last year of her life. Our Gmail threads, her messages to Marcy, even her photos of the garden she couldn't tend anymore. One email stood out, dated 6 months before her death. Subject: Ring. "Sweetheart, I've been thinking about the ring. I'd like you to keep it. Not because it's valuable, but because I know you'll pass it on with meaning. It's silly maybe, but I like to imagine your daughter wearing it on her wedding day. Don't tell Marcy yet. She'll understand later. Love, Mom. I stared at that email for an hour. It wasn't a legal document, but it was her voice, her intent, her final decision. And I was done staying silent. The last time I remember my mother looking strong, really strong, was the week after her third chemo round. Her hair was gone, her skin was dry, and her hands trembled when she buttered toast. But her voice was firm when she said, "Things don't always go to the person who wants them most. They go to the one who respects the wait." I didn't understand it then. But standing in my apartment with that email printed and shaking slightly in my hand, I heard her voice again. Clear, steady. And I finally knew what she meant. I wrote the letter on a Wednesday evening. Not a text, not an email, a real letter. Pen to paper. I don't know why exactly. Maybe because everything about the ring deserved to be slow and deliberate. Maybe because I wanted the ink to mean more than a blue bubble on a screen. It took me 3 drafts. Here's what I finally wrote. Marcy, I need you to read this and sit with it before responding. Please don't skim. Please don't roll your eyes and toss it in a drawer. You and I were in the hospice room the night before Mom passed. You told me, very clearly, that the ring should go to me. That Mom would want me to pass it down. I took that seriously. I didn't parade it. I didn't flaunt it. I zipped it into my bag and didn't even open the pouch until after the funeral. But it was gone by then. Somehow, it ended up with you. For months now, you've rewritten what happened. You've told people a version of that night that just doesn't match the truth. I know grief can make memories blur, but this wasn't blur. This was betrayal. I found an email Mom sent me 6 months before she died. She said she wanted me to have the ring, not for its value, but because I'd pass it down with meaning. She asked me not to tell you yet, because she believed you'd understand eventually. I'm done waiting for that. Give the ring back. If not for me, then for the promise you made. If not for that, then at least for Mom. Eric. I mailed it Thursday morning. I didn't hear back for 2 weeks. No text, no email, no smoke signal. I figured she was stewing, maybe embarrassed, maybe angry. But the silence said everything. She wasn't ready to admit anything, not even to herself. Then came the knock at my door. It was a Saturday. I'd just gotten out of the shower and was halfway into making eggs when I heard it. 3 sharp raps. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and opened the door. Marcy stood there, pale-faced, hair in a loose ponytail, no ring around her neck. She didn't say hi. Just, "You didn't have to go that far." I leaned on the frame. Apparently I did. "You think I'm some thief?" she said. "You think I just went through your stuff while you weren't looking?" "I don't know how it ended up with you," I said. "But I know it wasn't yours to keep." She opened her mouth, closed it. "I honestly forgot what I said that night," she admitted. "Everything was a blur. I just remember you being so quiet. You looked like you were falling apart." "I was falling apart," I said. "And you told me I'd do right by Mom, that I should pass it down." Her face cracked slightly at that. "I thought I could carry her," she said. "You know, in some way, wearing it helped." I nodded slowly. "But now it's not about that anymore," I said. "It's about what you chose to do when I asked you to make it right." She looked down. Then, from her pocket, she pulled out the pouch, the old linen one, faded but unmistakable. She didn't hand it to me. She walked past me, into the living room, and set it on the coffee table like it was a fragile animal. "You can open it," she said. I did. The ring was still in there. Same pearl, Same tiny scratch on the band. It felt both smaller and heavier than I remembered. We sat in silence for a while. Then Marcy asked quietly, "Do you think Mom would be mad at me?" "No," I said. "She'd be disappointed, but not mad." She gave a little laugh at that. It broke into a sniffle. "I don't even know why I held on to it this long," she said. "Maybe I thought if I gave it back, it would mean she was really gone." I didn't answer. I just held the ring between my fingers and tried to breathe through the weight of all the years, all the birthdays, all the laughter and screaming and shared holidays, and all the silence that had grown between us. That night, she didn't stay long. When she left, we didn't hug, just nodded. It wasn't resolution, not really. It was the start of repair. A week later, I took the ring to a jeweler, not to sell it, just to get it cleaned and inspected. The pearl was secure, the band still strong. They gave it a gentle polish and handed it back in a velvet box. I didn't put it on. I set it on my dresser, right beside the old family photo of Mom, Dad, Marcy, and me on that cabin trip we took in '98. The one where Marcy threw a snowball into Dad's coffee and I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. I stared at the photo and whispered, "I've got it, Mom." But the story wasn't over, because the damage wasn't just about a ring. It was about what broke between us, and repairing that would take more than one visit. The ring sat on my dresser for weeks after that. Every morning, I'd glance at it while getting dressed. Every night, it'd catch the low yellow of the lamp and glow faintly, like a soft reminder. It wasn't about possession anymore. It was about stewardship, the weight of memory, of trust broken and slowly stitched together. And yet, every time I looked at it, I thought of Marcy. Not the fight, not the lies. I thought of the bird we buried as kids, and how we both cried over something so small. She emailed me a month after the return. No subject line, just this. I told Jenny the truth about the ring and Mom's email. I also told her not to delete the post. I figured letting people assume would be easier, but you were right. Pretending made it worse. "I'm sorry again. Can we talk soon?" It was something. Not dramatic, not a full apology for every bruise left by her silence, but real. I replied, "Yeah, let's meet somewhere neutral. No family, just us." She suggested the botanical garden near where we grew up, the same one where Mom used to take us on her rare days off, with stale bread in a plastic bag for the ducks and lukewarm cocoa in a thermos. That felt right. It was early June, bright, humid, and already busy with strollers and retirees in sun hats. Marcy was waiting on a bench by the koi pond, picking at the edge of her coffee cup. She stood when I approached, but didn't go in for a hug. We weren't there yet. We sat in silence for a while, watched a fat orange fish nudge the surface. She spoke first. "I've been trying to write you a better apology." "You don't have to write it," I said. "Just say it." She took a breath. "I was wrong. I told myself I was grieving, and maybe I was, but I still knew what I was doing. I didn't forget what I said that night. I just didn't want to be the one left with nothing of her." I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I understood. "But the ring wasn't nothing to me," I said. "It was the last thing she touched before she slipped away, and you promised it would go to me." "I know," she said, eyes damp. "I twisted it, made it mine, and I hurt you." "Yeah," I said. "You did." She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside were copies of photos. Mom wearing the ring, Mom in the hospital, even one of the ring pouch in her sock drawer. I thought, maybe if you ever give it to someone or pass it down like Mom wanted, it should come with the full story. even the messy parts. That hit me in the chest harder than I expected, not because it fixed anything, but because it acknowledged everything. "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." We didn't solve it all on that bench. There were still months of space, still skipped holidays, still cousins who didn't know the full truth, still part of me that flinched when I saw her name on my phone. But we started trading emails again. She sent me a photo of Mom's old jewelry box, asked if I wanted the locket Dad bought her on their 20th. I said yes. I sent her a photo of the ring in its new box, alongside Mom's handwritten email, printed and folded like a relic. She said it made her cry. Then came the wedding. Not mine. Our cousin Jenny's, the one who posted the photo that lit the fire. She invited both of us, insisted we come, and seated us 2 tables apart. We didn't speak during the ceremony, barely during the reception. But when the father-daughter dance played, something cracked. Marcy stood beside me, arms crossed. "I wish she was here," she said quietly. "She would have danced with both of us," I said, "even if we stepped on her toes." We both laughed, lightly, carefully, and then she said, "You should wear it next time. The ring. To something that matters." I looked at her. "I will," I said, "when it's time." Summer passed. The ring stayed in its box, but the weight in my chest eased. Our relationship didn't go back to what it was before, but we stopped pretending nothing happened. That's the thing no one tells you about betrayal in families. It doesn't scream, it echoes. And it doesn't get resolved with a climax. It gets unfolded, slowly, painstakingly, through quiet decisions not to pull away. In September, Marcy sent me a letter, handwritten. It said, "I know I broke something between us. I hope this next chapter is us rebuilding it." Inside was a photo of us as kids, holding Daisy's popsicle stick cross between us, dirt on our cheeks, arms touching. On the back, she'd written, "Still here." And she was, still my sister, still a little reckless, but learning. And maybe I was too. The ring wasn't the end of our story. It was just a fault line we had to walk carefully together until it became a bridge. The air in the hospital was dry, recycled, and faintly sweet, somewhere between antiseptic and artificial lavender. My daughter had just been born. She was wrapped in a white and pink striped blanket, red-faced and squirming softly in my wife's arms. I stood beside them, blinking through the sleep deprivation, and reached out with one trembling finger to touch her tiny hand. She gripped it. All at once, I saw my mother's smile in the curve of her cheek. We named her Lila Marie. Marie, after my mother. I hadn't told Marcy until after the delivery. Not out of spite. I just wanted the name to be a gift. One she didn't feel entitled to, but honored by. She visited 3 days later. She brought a bouquet of peonies, Mom's favorite, and a little crocheted cap with bunny ears she said she found on Etsy. Marcy held Lila in her arms like she was porcelain. "She looks like you," she said. Then, after a beat, "and a little like Mom." We didn't talk about the ring that day, but it sat in my bag, in the same linen pouch, waiting. 3 weeks after Lila was born, I pulled the ring box out and set it on the kitchen table. It was a quiet Tuesday evening. My wife, Shannon, had just gotten Lila down to sleep. I lit a candle. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed the moment to mean something. Shannon looked at the box and raised an eyebrow. "Is that?" "Yeah," I said. "It's time." I opened it slowly. The pearl still shimmered, soft and quiet. The band still carried the tiny scratch I'd traced with my thumb so many times over the years. "You're sure?" Shannon asked. "I've never been more." I took it out of the box and slid it onto Shannon's finger. It fit perfectly. "It's beautiful," she said, blinking. "It's not just beautiful," I said. "It's history. It's my mother. It's a promise I finally kept." I didn't tell Marcy right away. It wasn't a secret, but it wasn't for social media either. It was private, sacred even. But when she came by a few weeks later to drop off a baby sweater she'd knit, Shannon answered the door wearing the ring. Marcy noticed. Of course she did. She didn't say anything right away, but her eyes softened. Over coffee, when Lila was sleeping in her bassinet, Marcy finally spoke. "You gave it to her." "I did." "Mom would have liked that," she said. "Yeah," I nodded. "She would have." Then she said something I didn't expect. "When Lila's old enough, I want to tell her the story too. The whole thing. Even the parts I'm not proud of." I looked at her for a long moment. "Okay," I said. "She should hear it from both of us." Time passed. Slowly, but kindly. Marcy and I still had our edges. Old habits die hard. But we also started new ones. We began a tradition. Every year on Mom's birthday, we'd meet at her favorite diner, order the French toast she always swore was too sweet, and tell one memory we hadn't shared before. Sometimes the stories were funny, sometimes hard, but they were ours, and they kept her close. One year, when Lila was 6, she sat between us at the diner and asked, "Who's the ring for after Mommy?" We both laughed, caught off guard. Marcy leaned in and said, "It's for you someday, but only if you promise to be very careful with it." Lila blinked seriously. "I promise." And just like that, another thread was stitched into the fabric of our family. I don't think the ring is magical. It won't bring back Mom. It won't undo the fracture Marcy and I had to climb through. But it does carry something more powerful than memory. It carries intention. It carries forgiveness. And it carries the quiet, persistent strength of two siblings who lost their mother and, almost, lost each other too. The last time I held the ring alone was the night before I proposed to Shannon, and the next time I'll hold it alone will be the night I give it to Lila. Not because I want to hold on to the past, but because I want to pass forward the truth. Even the messy parts, especially the messy parts. Because in our family, the real inheritance isn't the pearl. It's the promise. And this time, it'll be one that stays kept. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.